Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're actually, well tonight, it's actually about 6 o'clock maybe. It's pitch black outside thanks to no daylight savings, so we're doing our best with all the lighting gear that I've got in the shed. But pretty much we've got the Blue Beauty back and we're going to be doing a new steering wheel upgrade. So Nick's picked himself up a new Alcantara steering wheel that we're going to be swapping over for the stock one. Now I've got free reign of the car tonight, so Nick's going to be walking me through exactly how to do this steering wheel upgrade because, well, I've never done one. He's done a few at work, so it's up to me to have a go at it. Now, the first step that you should do, apparently you don't really need to do this, but I think it's more of a safety thing that you should do, and that's to disconnect the battery. So we've gone ahead and we've disconnected the battery. Now there's no power to the car, so we're all good for the airbag not popping in my face. Pretty much, let's have a look at the tools we're going to use so we can get straight into this install. So these are the tools we're going to be using tonight. Basically we have our rattle gun, we have a standard just, you know, impact driver, whatever. We have a male T, this is a 55, we're not 100% sure on that yet, so I will double check that once I'm in there. A Phillips head bit, a little trim removal tool, a small flat blade screwdriver, and this is a Holden specialty tool. So we are lucky enough to have this because, well, Nick's a Holden mechanic, but this is something that I'm not sure if you can really grab. You might be able to pick it up off eBay or from Holden. I can't guarantee anything, so you could just try and use a small screwdriver if you want. But this is basically to remove the airbag from the actual steering wheel. There's two little slots on the back which I'll show you. The prong just goes in there and you sort of just pry it off and the springs release and the airbag pops off. So this is his old plastic trim. You see these two holes on either side. It sort of goes in like that. It goes in, then there's a little clip inside that you have to pry. That releases a spring, which then the airbag will just pop straight off the steering wheel. So that's going to be our first step. Let's jump in and have a go. Alright, so first step, we need to turn the steering wheel so we can actually access those back slots. I'm just going to turn it without locking the steering wheel, obviously. And then those clips that we showed you, just put the tool in, lift up, and that's one side off. And then you just got to turn it back the other way. And get the second one in. So remember, remove your battery before doing this, but that's the airbag off. Now there's a little clip in behind there. Okay. Alright, well that's the airbag off now, so I'll show you these connections in a sec. Alright, now we've got our airbag off. You can see on the back it's got all the springs and stuff. Basically the safe way to put it is just put it face down like that on the springs. Don't flip it over onto the Holden badge, because if you imagine that bag actually popping, well, you're going to send the whole unit upwards. At least that way the bag will just pop and it will, you know, tear all the inside and basically not as dangerous. So we're just going to rest it down on something flat, and we don't want to touch that. So just leave it, don't play with it, and let's get to taking the wheel off. So I'm just going to show you these connections while it's off. This little one down here is just an easy little, you just pull the connector off. I'm assuming that's a ground or something. And then you have this orange and this blue connector on the back. Now what it is on the side, there's a little, you can sort of see that little tab there. You push it in and it just releases the connector, and you pull it out of the airbag like that. And then it's the same for the blue. There's just a little pin on the side, push it in, pull it out. So that's us off. Now let's start removing all this gear. Alright, so what we've done is we've just locked the steering wheel now. So it's slightly skewed, but that's okay because there's actually a thing called a master spline on it. It's pretty easy to identify, and it only lets the wheel go on that one way. So what we've done, we've locked the steering wheel just so it's not moving around. What we have to do is in here, we have to undo a clip. So at the bottom of the steering wheel, you'll see a little white clip. Now basically, you just push a screwdriver down on top to get the tab and pop it out. So we're just going to push down on the tab there and pull out the connector, and that's it. That's the only connections you have to disconnect to get the actual wheel off right now, because you can feed this through the hole of the steering wheel here, and yeah, that's it. We're ready to take the wheel off now. Alright, so we're going to remove the steering wheel bolt now. So right in the center, you've got the bolt basically. Turns out it's a T50. So we've got our little impact here. This is strong enough to get it off. You might need a breaker bar, you might have a strong enough impact to get it off, but T50 bit. So let's put it in without stripping anything and take it off. Okay, and that's off. Now a trick is, don't take it off all the way, because you're going to really have to reef on the steering wheel to get it actually off the spline. What we're going to do is put it on just enough so that once it does release, I don't punch myself in the face basically. So let's put it on just enough, and well, look at that, the wheel actually come off pretty easily. So maybe yours is a bit loose like this one, and we can just pull that straight off. Watch your connectors so you don't rip anything, obviously. Well, and it's as easy as that. So you guys might have a bit more issue if the steering wheel's never been off, or if it's an older car or something like that. But just use the trick of not taking the bolt all the way out, so that when you're reefing on the thing, you might have seen videos that happen before, but people just smash themselves in the face. So try not to have a broken nose by the end of your steering wheel install. So another thing to check and to be very careful of when taking your wheel off is that this white part here, the clock spring, actually does rotate. You can see that. So you got to make sure you keep it exactly where it was so that you can put the steering wheel back on easily. And then also you can see a slight little niche in the spline there. Well, on top of it, I'll show you on the steering wheel, but on top of it, it's basically got not as a sharp of tooth as you can see on the side here. It's sort of flattened off. So that's what we call our master spline. That's what we have to line up with our new wheel. Now that the wheel is out of the car, we're going to start taking off all the plastic trim, the buttons, and the cabling behind it, as well as this back piece, so that we can put it onto the new Alcantara wheel. So I'll show you guys that in a sec, but for now we're going to remove all the stuff on here. So to start, we have to get rid of these silver parts on here. Phillips head screwdriver, I'm going to use this because we've set it on a pretty low speed. Be careful with plastic, don't wreck anything. You can use a screwdriver if you want to. So we just removed these two screws on the silver part. You'll see them as soon as you open it up. They just sort of sit in there. So that's those two screws done. Now to get this actually off, there's another two screws in this section, but to access that you have to go from the back. So we're going to remove this black trim piece. Grab your trim removal tool, don't scratch anything, and we're just going to pry it off and undo the clips. So that's our black piece off the back removed. Put that at the side. Now you can sort of see in here, there's a screw there and a screw just there. We're going to remove them so that we can take this silver piece off the front. Now that we've removed those two screws, we've got 3 screws on either side of the handle. You sort of see there's one there, and then you got one there and one just in there. And then we've also got the ground, because it pulls off the buttons basically all at the same time. So you may as well just remove that while we've got the Phillips head out. Alright, now we've removed all our screws from the back. We've also taken off that ground one, so just set them aside, make sure you know where they go for the next wheel replacement. Now, to get these silver bits off, obviously the screws are all released now. We're just going to put our trim tool in between the leather and the plastic trim and just slowly pry it up, being gentle with it. Alright, so we've popped this trim piece off here. Now this part in the back, I'll show you on the steering wheel later, but you can sort of see there's a screw part there. It's just plastic onto the back of this trim. So that's the screw I was telling you about you need to remove, because a lot of wheels come and that's actually been broken off because people don't know there's a screw there. So like this one Nick's picked up, the previous guy has actually done that. He's just ripped off the old trim and didn't realize there was a screw in there. So that's broken on his piece, and we're just going to have to release the screws once we swap it all over. But yeah, just so you guys know. Now that all the controls and stuff are off, we can run this cable around the back. All I'm going to do is, inside here, if you look at the front of the steering wheel, you've got a white plug down there that we removed before. There's 2 little clips either side, so I'm just going to pinch it like that and push it out the other way. So when releasing this, we had the same problem with the first one, but we put it back together. But once I pop that, the actual black cover here has come off where the switches and stuff are. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take it off very carefully, because we had to put this one back so we know where it goes. But we're just going to take it off very, very carefully so that we don't lose any pieces. We finally got these off. So the problem we were having was the black trim was actually coming off the whole switch mechanism. We didn't want to wreck the circuit board and stuff in the back there, so we finally got it off after a bit of playing around. So just be really careful with that. It sits in front of the silver trim, so you sort of have to get this off before the silver or at the same time, but just be super careful. There's a little tab on the back of it, sort of sits up in that section there. But yeah, anyway, now that we've got this all off, we can transfer it over to the new wheel. Alright, so we have our new Alcantara wheel here, very nice, and it's a bit different. It's sort of like suede really, but it doesn't get stuff all on your hands, so that's a bonus. What we're going to do is flick it over, and like I said, these bottom screws here, the guy who previously had it broke off those little clips on the back of these little trim pieces, so they're still sitting in there at the moment. We have to remove those screws before we can start installing everything. Alright, so now that those screws are removed, we've just got to replace everything to exactly how the old wheel was. So just do everything we just done, but in reverse. Alright, that's the wheel completely back together. Let's go put it back on the car. So like I said before, this is the back of the steering wheel. So if we look inside, you can sort of see that notch there that's quite larger than the other one. So they're more like a sharp little notch. That one's more like, I don't know, a channel down the center. That's that main spline I was telling you about, the master spline. That's what we're going to line up with on the actual spline of the steering wheel over there. And you can tell where it is because it's like a little slot on the actual spline of that. So we're ready to put the wheel back on now. This is completely back together. So let's slip it back on. Make sure you get these connectors and stuff through without breaking anything. So this part up here where we were talking about the clock spring that like spins around, you just have to put it in that rectangle. You'll know when it sits in there nicely and it stops moving. But that's all on now. So we'll put our bolt back in, and we're just going to tighten that right up, nice and tight. And then our clip goes back in the bottom like so. Make sure that's seated nicely. Make sure everything's back together good. And we can put our airbag back on now. Alright, so we've got our airbag here. We're going to whack that back on. So what we have to do, you got your orange, your blue, and the little ground one. The ground, if you're looking at your airbag, at the base there's like a little copper prong. You'll see it when you first took it off, but that just slides onto there. And then you've sort of got to really lay it over to get these other clips on. There's one, orange one's in. Okay, now just sit it on nicely. Get rid of the bug that's landed on it. Make sure it's even and just slowly push it. And you'll know once it seats because it makes the click noise and you'll hear it. Now I done that all at once, so I had even pressure against the whole thing. You have 4 little hooks in the corners, which is where you actually release when you're removing it. If you just do it carefully with the battery removed, you're not going to have the horn go off, or you're not going to have a pop in your face. But just push nicely and just smooth and soft basically until you hear that click. So now she's on, the wheel is on. We've still got it locked at the moment, but that's okay. Once we put the key in, it'll unlock. And that is the wheel install done. So we can now put the battery back on and take it for a spin. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope it was a little bit of a good little tutorial for you if you're doing the similar thing. It's quite a simple upgrade, and if you weren't filming it, it would only take about 15 minutes maybe. Leave any comments down below if you got any questions or anything for me, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you guys.